Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Josh, obviously. We're talking about Yeli, the Eternal Knight. Is she going to be worth your well-earned resources in almost said Honkai Star Rail. I guess she does kind of look like a Honkai Star Rail character. But this is Etheria restart. We're getting demonetized today. Is she going to be good? We're going to be tackling what her base stats mean for her as well as her kit. She's going to be, if you're just here for the short of it here, drop that like or whatever. She's going to be a very strong character. I think I'd put her probably tentatively in like a tier 0.5-ish, maybe even like tier 0 for some things. But she's also going to have a couple of other characters who are very similar in their role and function in PvE as well as PvP. So she's going to be very strong, but not necessarily like a game-changing unit, I don't think. Let's talk about exactly why that is. Her base stats here, as you can see, if you take her to level 50, you max out all of her talent trees here, you're going to have 10 plus 30% crit rate, which is quite substantial. She's going to come with 30% free crit rate, which is very nice, and she's going to get even more than that. She'll be very easy to build for this reason. A little bit of crit damage, 120 speed with an extra 15 there. So not super crazy fast, not super slow. This is the same sort of speed setup that Hoyen and Holden just had as well. Defense HP, nothing super crazy to talk about. The attack is fine for a 5-star. Animus as well. And if you're not sure exactly, yeah, she's an LD character, as you can see right there. She is of the constant element. So the bread and butter of her kit is going to be revolving around her S1. This is going to be the most used skill of her. So let's take a look at this. This is going to be a 240% mod, which is pretty substantial. It's not like crazy broken. It's not like a 300% mod. I think like Rosa is like a 65 or 70 mod that hits multiple times, right? So like 70, 70, 70 would be, you know, a little under this. So this is a very hard-hitting S1 skill, and it does have the ability to steal a buff off of the target. Now we'll talk more about the steal stuff because I'm not like the biggest, I don't think it's like the craziest thing, but it's fine. It's all right. It's a way to dispel something off of your opponent and put it on her. But a lot of the times you're gonna have the necessary buffs that you want to support your DPS character. You like a Yeli anyway, right? You're bringing your own attack buff. Maybe you can steal like a defense buff or something. A lot of the PvE content right now, the farming content and just generic PvE anyway, if you need that buff in your party to do the content, to progress it, to farm it, you're not stealing it off the enemy. You know, you're doing it with another character in your party. So it's fine that it steals. It's a way to kind of like dispel and then give for some extra value in like PvP. In PvE, it's a little bit of a way to dispel stuff off of the enemy as well. If you don't have a dispeller, that's really where this shines. It's not the fact that like you're getting the buff, it's more the fact that you're taking the buff away is the best part of this skill. And you have to take it all the way up to level 5 to have a 30% chance to steal a buff. So you're gonna wanna max this out at talent level 4 because this is where a lot of her damage is coming from, and we'll find out exactly why. Because of her S2 passive here, the Fluttering Flora, this does not have a cooldown on it. As you can see, it's not like Rose's where it's like once per turn this can trigger. This is how it works. So after you land a critical hit with an active skill on Yeli, you have a 100% chance at talent level 5. You're gonna have to max this out to cast her S1 one additional time on the main target only, okay? So if you S1, you have and you crit with it, you have a 100% chance to S1 again. After each casting of this proc, the chance to trigger the next cast reduces by 60% of the current chance. So this means that you take your turn, right? You S1 somebody, there's a 100% chance that you're going to S1 again. And then after that, it's reduced to 60%. So then you have a second chance of 60% to S1 again, right? And then it's reduced by 60% of 60% down to like, you know, 40-ish%, you know, 35, 40% to S1 again, and then 12% S1 again, right? 12.5% S1 again. It'll keep going. Theoretically, you could chain it all the way down to like S1ing like 5-6 times in a row. But really what you're gonna be doing here is it's going to guarantee that you're double hitting with your S1, guaranteed, sometimes triple, quadruple, you know. It's probably the top that you'll see is like a quadruple hit, but this is where you're going to be getting the big value of leveling up this skill to 240% multiplier. So she's going to be a very heavily invested unit, and she's going to be able to steal a buff each time you do that, so you can dispel multiple buffs off of enemies and give it to her. Like I said, a lot of the time, if the buff's super important, like attack buff, defense buff, you probably have someone in your party to give it to her already anyway. but you have the opportunity to get it off of the enemy. Then we have her S3, which is Nightfire. This is going to be pretty good. It's going to be an AoE, so she purifies all debuffs from herself, gains a 2-turn crit rate buff, and then does 3 hits of 120% multiplier to all enemies, each hit having a 50% chance to inflict defense down on those enemies. And this is going to be something you're going to want to level up last, I think, because this is level 2 damage mod increase, purify all debuffs at level 3 instead of just a couple, which is okay, it's fine. And then level 4 is damage mod increase, and level 5 reduces the skill cooldown by 1 turn as well. This is going to be something you're going to want to level up. She's going to be someone you want to max out, but if you were, stressed and stretched out for those SSS Animus skill modules, right? You're going to want to be doing the S2 and the S1 first. But this is very strong, very, very good, and it reminds me very much of a combination of like Rose's S3 with like Diddy's single target damage. You've probably heard that from other creators or just on the internet, right? She gives herself a crit buff instead of like Rosa, who gives it to everyone. She gives it to herself. Then she has a defense break AoE, which is kind of unique. Diddy doesn't do that. Rosa doesn't do that, but she does this defense down thing. And then keep in mind, this is AoE, but if you go back to the S2, it's chance to cast your S1 on the main target. So you're not going to be able to have a bunch of chances to S1 AoE everybody. It's going to be whoever you select as the main target for this AoE. And what that's going to allow you to do is give you multiple chances to proc this S1. Because remember, landing a crit hit with an active skill, she has a 100% chance to follow up with an attack, right? And then it gets reduced to 60%, and then it gets reduced to 60%. Your odds go down over time. This is a 3-hit skill, allowing you to roll the dice quite a few times to get as many S1 procs off as possible. So you're going to select the main target for your attack. This thing's going to give her the crit buff, defense break, everything. And then whoever you selected as the main target of your attack, you're going to get at first, not just the AoE from S3, you're going to get a free S1 on that person. And then for each hit that you do, whether it's going to be from Nightfire or from the S1 from Aerospark, you're going to have those diminishing returns, right? Those lower odds to keep S1ing them, allowing you to do a bunch of single target damage. So she's got the ability to, honestly, if you're super lucky, you're super crazy, one-shot somebody, right? You defense break, she's got attack buff, she just 3 hits, rolls an S1, 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 rolls an S1. Then you put some other gear on her, we'll talk about in a second, and allow you to do a bunch of cool stuff that way. So she's got potential to do giga damage. Now the downside, comparing her to some other units out there, she has a mix, like I said, of the deeding single target damage and the follow-up style and the crit rate buffs of Rosa. I think she's going to be very good because even if you don't high roll, you're still going to do a pretty significant amount of damage the turn you S3, and as well as the turns that you S1 up after that. She's also going to be very easy to build. So she's going to be very easy to build because she gives herself that crit rate buff, which is 30%. And like we talked about before, her base crit rate is 10 plus 20. So between those two things, it's already 60% crit rate for you. That is exceptionally powerful. You only need 40% more to cap your crit rate. So you can use like one crit rate main right side piece, or what you'll probably end up doing is using just a bunch of crit damage right side pieces and getting crit rate in the substats as well, and just do a bunch of burst damage when you have your S3 ready to rock and roll, which is going to be a pretty significant amount of the time, because if you do max this thing out, which you're going to want to do, it's a 3-turn cooldown and you get a 2-turn crit rate buff. So you're going to, while this buff is up, do as much damage as humanly possible. For farming PvE, take out that enemy, and the PvP fight with just a tremendous amount of damage, whether it's going to be the consistent damage from a couple, 2, 3, 4 S1 procs and just taking somebody out, or just maybe a high roll on a tank, or high roll on something like Nico Nana or Terror or whatever it is that you want to do. Strip all their buffs off and just do a bunch of damage in that fashion and in that regard. Now, does your account need this character? So a character like this in PvE, let's talk about farming. So right now, farming in PvE, listen, if you're not doing the DOT Shadow Sonya farming, you're probably using something like Didding. Would you want to use her over Didding for constant farming? I would say no, because Didding is someone that you want to gear up, get ready to rock and roll in auto battle with. Someone like Didding is going to be a lot more consistent in your auto repeat farming. Once you get your Diddy geared and you go to do Hell 3, Hell 4, Inferno, you can clear it on auto. You're gonna know that with outside of some RNG of like the boss stunning people or hitting Diddy too many times and killing people with the left arm terror, automaton, whatever attack, you're gonna know that your damage is gonna be very consistent. You're gonna know how much damage Diddy's doing every time he takes a turn, every time he gets a free dual attack off of Lily S1. You know that's what your damage is going to be. Could you potentially get into a fight and clear it earlier with Yeli in your team than with Diddy because you can high roll the damage? Sure. But if you're relying on high rolling your damage from doing S3 and getting multiple procs at the right time to take the boss out in your auto repeat farms, that's not going to happen all of the time, and your failure rate is going to be much higher in those farming scenarios than using somebody like our boy Diddy here. So I don't know if that's going to be something that you want to rely on for farming some of this auto farm content. I think she's still going to be good in PvE farming, especially once you have the good gear out there and you can rely on the consistency of her getting, probably at least 2 every time she attacks, but 2 to 3 attacks. You don't want to be relying on getting 4, 5, 6, 7 super high roll. I got battle wheel gear on, right? And just doing a bunch of damage and one-shotting the boss. That's going to be a really cool clip highlight, but when you fight the boss 700 times, it's not going to happen, all 700 times. So that's very good for that reason there. And then as far as follow-up teams go, very similar to someone like Rosa as well. Now, Rosa is in here. Let's see, where's she at? Hello? Rosa. Oh, here you are. Here you are, girl. Very easy to just look at them all right here. So very similar to our girl right here, Rosa, who also has the free 30% free crit rate. She gives everyone a crit rate buff, which in my opinion, not a lot of teams out there have like double DPS strategies right now anyway in farming for PvE. So the fact that this is an AoE crit rate buff doesn't really matter that much to me. And then instead of getting speed down from someone like Rosa in your party, you'll get defense break instead. So very similar in that regard. The multiplier on the S3 I think is exactly the same as well. And then you're going to be doing your follow-up attacks with someone like Rosa off of the Blade Heart Bloom passive, which is limited to like, once per turn, she can follow up on a Blade Hearted Bloomed enemy. Also, unlike Rosa, where the Blade Heart Bloom is a debuff that increases the damage that they take from your S1s, you just have that strip dispel sort of thing where you take the buffs off the enemy with the Yela and put it on Yela as well. And then if we look at the multiplier here, 70% like we said before, which is pretty nice. Rosa has turn meter decrease, so maybe a little bit more consistent in your farming strategy there. If you're able to give them speed down, relying on that, relying on some of the pushback, so you get some extra attacks and some extra procs in, a little bit more consistent of a farming clear in PvE. Very similar characters though. It's like a mix of these two together. So as far as PvE goes, I think she's still going to be pretty good. I think a lot of people are overhyping this steel buff thing though. Listen, it's cool, it's nice. I view it mainly as a strip. You take the enemy's buffs off, and then sometimes you get to refresh your attack buff. Maybe you get it for an extra turn or two before your supports can put it back on. Maybe you get a free defense buff or whatever. But there's no PvE content that we're in the game right now farming up, right? In generic PvE or just farming shells, farming modules, whatever, where you're like, oh man, the fact that I get to take this buff and put it on my girl is insane. It's more the fact that she can be like a dispeller for your team, which is something that's very hard to fit into a party right now. There's not very many dispellers in Etheria Restart. So that's going to be the best part about her S1. She's going to be stripping stuff off. Think about like Terramaton, right? We just talked about Diddy being consistent. If you can rely on this and just, get 2-3 attacks off and steal that defense buff that the right arm puts up, it might allow you to clear that fight a lot quicker. Or maybe you're doing, something in hyperlink trek, whatever it's called, or the tower mode where you need someone to strip off the enemies there so they don't have defense buff or immunity or whatever it is, so your debuffers can do their job. She can help free up that slot, which is a very, almost sometimes non-existent slot in the game right now, where there's not very many strippers. Why like someone like Heinrich is so strong, where like Heinrich can dispel all that stuff and then put buff block up. She doesn't have buff block, but she's got the strip. Now, in PvP, Where do I predict this character to go? Listen, I think in PvP, I would rate here just about the same area that Rosa is in, right? Their stats are very similar, 120 speed, 30 free crit rate. And we look at Rosa here, 116 plus, so she's a little bit faster than Rosa, 10 plus 20 crit rate. I would rate her probably a little higher than Rosa in PvP because she does come with a very powerful defense break. So if you do try to build her fast, or maybe you have her faster and you use someone like Mio or Lily or someone who like Marvel who can bridge the gap, right? Be that bridge between your fast characters, the enemy team, and then you have, you know, your DPS like Yeli going before them now because you bridged that gap and you placed her in front of them. Defense break's very powerful, and because you're also going to get defense break into immediate follow-up damage. So if you have her fast with damage and you can bridge her up there, you're going to be taking at least one person out of the fight immediately, especially because each hit has a chance to defense break them. So you can also get a little lucky and defense break them on the first hit and have the other two 120% multipliers hit while they're defense broken, and then get follow-up attacks on your main target after that. So some sort of like weird cleave team can be pretty good with Yeli there. And then in the future, when we start seeing more people who have Bloodbath on their team, right? It's going to be a thing. Bloodbath, Colossal Guard, right? All of these 6-piece bonuses that give free stats. It's going to be very nice for you to be able to hit them multiple times and then keep hitting them because of the Bloodbath set. Bloodbath is going to be very good in PvP at some point. Right now, we're kind of in the speed meta. I go first, you die. But look forward to more like Bloodbath immunity set being put on a lot of more turn 2 style teams, probably in the next month or so. And she's going to be pretty good there as well. If they're all on immunity, you're not going to get the defense break, but you're going to be able to kind of take off the benefit of them wearing the Bloodbath set by just hitting them a bunch of times with your S1. And also she's going to be able to be your stripper in there as well if you need to strip them afterwards. The strip though, I mean, honestly in PvP, like if you're getting the S3 off and you hitting them with like two or three S1s, they're probably dead. You already went first. You're not stripping anything. They're gone. Like maybe you stripped off their immunity as you killed them. I don't know. You know, so that's going to be this character. As far as sets go, that I think that she's going to be pretty good on. Depends on how you want to play her. I don't exactly know how this setup's going to work, but if we go and check out some of the matrices that we can look at here, very similar to Rosa, we want to talk about Battle Will here. So after the Animus uses an attack skill, there's a 20% chance to launch a follow-up attack on the main target. One of the first sets that we can get access to from farming Terror. Listen, after the Animus uses an attack skill, 20% chance to launch a follow-up attack. This could go banana sandwich with Yeli's kit, because unlike our lovely dovely Rosa girl, who is limited to following up with Bloodbath once per her turn, Yeli doesn't have that limit. And so Bloodbath is going to increase the odds that you're able to keep rolling additional attacks, right? You use your S3, the first one, guaranteed S1 extra. Then the next one, 60% chance S1 extra. Then, 30%. But in between all of those things, you also have Battle Will chances to proc free S1s as well. And the Battle Will can reproc her passive. Obviously, the odds are going to go down each time, but the Battle Will chances are always going to be that 20%, and the Fluttering Flora chances are the ones that are going to go down each time. So say you like S3, you get the guaranteed S1. Well, then you have, not on top of the guaranteed S1, a 60% chance for an extra S1 and a 20% chance for a Battle Will. If both of those proc, then you have, a 20% chance for another Battle Will, and then like a 30 or 28% or whatever that number is. I'm not doing the math right now, I'm bad. 35% chance, something like that, to do another S1. And then if that procs, you have, a 12.5% chance to do another S1 on top of another 20% chance to do a Battle Will, because they're independent procs and none of them say once per turn. It says cast one time, but that's just if it triggers. If you get the 100%, 60%, 30%, 12%, it'll just cast her S1 one additional time. So she can work very well in something like that with Battle Will. If you want to just do some cool YouTube videos out there, if you gain access to her, and just roll the enemy into the floor, just, oh, check it out, I one-shot Aurora. You know, you can do that as well. You can build her a little bit faster, right? Battle Will's an 8-piece set, so you can do like an 8-piece Battle Will with like, maybe you do like a Swift Ray to make it a little bit faster, so you can have a little bit easier time bridging the gap in a PvP scenario. But outside of that, just generic stuff. She's gonna be able to do some decent stuff. You can just build her for traditional DPS like you would Didding or Rosa. So you can put Fury on, you can put Momentum on. Kenai, not the greatest here though, because she wants to hit multiple times. So probably not the greatest, but look at Onslaught, look at Fury, Momentum. If you have a bunch of defense breakers and debuffers in your team, she's gonna be able to dispel people, no immunity. So you're gonna be able to put as many debuffs as you want on there. Kenai is gonna be not the greatest because she's gonna hit so many times with her S1 potentially in a single turn. Fury Edge obviously is very nice. And then just the high roll of Battle Will is pretty nice as well. We also have Swift Rush if you're trying to build her more as a aggressive speed character, right? Just get the 35% speed, maybe lose out on the Onslaught bonus or the Momentum bonus in a PvP scenario. Because if you're just gonna hit an enemy 2, 3, 4 times between the S3, the S1 hits 5 times, probably 3 hits of the S3, and then 1 to 2 hits of the free S1s afterwards, you're probably dead anyway. So, you know, you can do that as well. As far as shells go, yeah, we already know Revelation on, well, I hit a bunch of times. Revelation's pretty good. So before you take action, you're gonna get a bonus true damage based off their max HP, and it can exceed 180% of your attack. And you can roll this thing, Swift Raid, Fury Edge, Battle Will, Harvest, if you want to do that as well. You can do Momentum in here, Onslaught. So there's going to be a lot of ways to gear her up as a big Revelation damage booster. The matrices that are on this thing are set up just exactly the way you'd want to have her set up between Battle Will, Fury Edge, Swift Raid. Take your pick. But on top of that, she also works extremely well with the skill, because her S3 hits 3 times AoE. That's a lot of damage in that regard. And you're gonna get at least 1 guaranteed S1 the turn you use your S3, all during Revelation, at least 1 S1 on your main target. And then if you're on, you know, Battle Will, you have a 60% chance from her passive to do another S1, a 20% chance to do another Battle Will. So you can get 4 to maybe 5 or 6 procs, 3 AoE, and then up to 3 probably additional, at least 1, but 1 to 3 without going into the sub 1%, sub 2% chances to keep S1ing rate of Revelation on a single person. If you have Revelation proc and you S3 and you get guaranteed into a follow-up into a Battle Will proc, you get 6 Revelations, somebody, that person's dead. I don't care how tanky they are. I don't care if you don't have like the craziest rolled gear. Like you just go like Swift Raid, Fury Edge, Onslaught, Swift Raid, Fury Edge, Battle Will, right? It doesn't matter. That person's gone. It's over. You're farming up in PvE that way as well. You're gonna have a pretty high attack. You're gonna be able to do good stuff with Revelation there. As far as other ones you can do, I mean, yeah, sure, you can do like White Fang and stuff, but nothing really comes close to how strong Revelation really is right now. You could do other meme stuff like the Count, right? Just get a big attack buff, take them out, heal yourself back up. In PvP, we have access to everyone's favorite, where'd he go? Law of Silence. Law of Silence is very nice. You start in the stealth state, right? She's gonna be like a squishier DPS. You have Law of Silence. You have the ability to build her on some of the offensive sets here. You still have access to Fury Edge, but Law of Silence doesn't have that Battle Will cheese we're looking for. Though the Void State's very nice, gives you that effect resistance. Can't be selected as a target for a single target attack, and you also reduce AoE damage by 50% this turn as well, and then you can go back into the Void State. But it's really all about this Revelation right now. I think this is the way that you're going to want to build her. You're going to want to build her on Revelation. I'd probably try to have fun with the Battle Will nonsense here, right? It's only an 8-piece. If you're in the mid tier, you know, you're doing health 3, health 4, you can probably build her pretty easy. You know, Battle Will plus one of these offensive 12 to 8-piece sets out there. You won't need a ton of, you know, 3 matrix pieces of module gear. You can do 3-3, 3-3, 2-2-2-2 or whatever, right? And you'll be fine that way in that regard on Yeli. So my final thoughts on her, I think she's going to be pretty top tier, but she's going to have some alternatives. Maybe you already have Rosa. Maybe you already are settled with your Didding, right? Where you don't really need her on your account, right? Cool, we talked about how you can do this bridge thing with her and just cleave people with her in PvP. You know what else works for that? Bridging Masya to the front and ripping his S3 and killing everybody in one hit, right? So there's some other things that you can be doing. I don't think she's a must-have character, but she is someone that you will be happy to have on your account if you do end up pulling her like later on tonight or whatever when she is released. So that's going to be me for Yeli here. I'm excited to maybe try to get her on the free-to-play by the way account. I don't know. We've been doing some other stuff. Look for some more guides coming out. I have like 1, 2, 3 guides coming out down the road. If that's something you want to see, you see my smiling face again on the channel.
Holy Jesus. What is that?
I just got out of the shower. My hair's a mess. It's just not my day today. Anyway, I wanted to get this out, but make sure you drop that sub. Leave a comment down below what you think about this character. And I'll catch you guys on the Honkai Star Rail train. Oh no, this is a Etheria restart. It really does look like a Honkai Impact character though. Let me zoom.